He is a longtime senior advisor to President Trump. He is formerly with the Small Business Administration, serving as advocate for the White House. There's no one that understands this stuff better than Bruce Levell, who joins us now on 1210. Bruce, you're on with Matt Rooney, filling in for Rich Zioli. Thank you for joining us.
Hey, thanks for having me. Good to be back again, actually.
Oh, it's always our pleasure to have you here on 1210 WPHT. We appreciate your wisdom, and I appreciate the wisdom. I don't know if you heard that clip we just played of the president. This is not a fight that he was looking to pick, but there could be consequences, and you call me crazy. It's happened before. I think the Democrats are going to end up owning it.
Yeah. Well, hopefully we won't go through what we went through in 2018, which was, 35 days. And,
right.
Of course, the time before that, I believe, was 21 days back in 95. I'm hoping and praying that, we come to a resolution because, there's people, there's lives, there's people, with families, et cetera. And, it's unfortunate that the fact is that they were trying to play hardball, going back in and lifting up the hood and with the Obamacare and bottom line funding illegal immigrants. So, the sad part about this is, like the president says, I know him very well, he's a very compassionate person. People don't really know that. But he really cares about people. And I always said that in order to be as successful as he is, you have to love people. Especially to his career, et cetera. But this also, unfortunately, goes back to an opportunity for Doge and OMB to go, as we call it, lift up the hood and take another look under the hood and really search for, some redundancies that maybe didn't make it in the first round of some of the Doge cuts, et cetera, as well as some unnecessary wasteful spending that can, come to light. So, it's sad because of the politics that these folks are playing on the backs of the hardworking men and women, which is, yes, the taxpayers, let alone the families that do have jobs, and rely on their jobs to feed their families, et cetera, to be caught into this quagmire of the hatefulness of the Democrats.
Well, they're always very transparent about one thing, or at least increasingly they're transparent about one thing. They're not even pretending to care about the American people anymore, right? I mean, to me, this is very nakedly a cash grab for their special interests who have been very rightly defunded by this administration over the course of many months. And you said it just now, and you said it very well over on X the other day. The Schumer shutdown, which is what it is, gives President Trump another chance to expose government waste. What do you think is the current treasure trove of waste that remains as of yet undisturbed? Because we know they've tried to throw a lot of roadblocks in this president's way.
Well, we all are very well aware, obviously, what DOE, Department of Education, and where if 10% went back to the states, we were lucky. So essentially that was a big fat jobs program. And once again, many other redundancies. And, as Secretary Pete Hessek said, maybe, let's look at everything here. What are we paying for this helmet? What are we paying for this cooler for the military that out in the field? I mean, it goes down from every single line item all the way down to the very pen on the desk. And as you made an interesting point, and I've always emphasized this, especially I was privileged to craft his diversity coalition back in 2015, was the fact that out of all the candidates, the 17, very well qualified candidates, the biggest attraction to President Trump when he came down the escalators, and that he signaled even before that he wanted to run, was the fact that he wouldn't take any special money and not be driven through favors and taking money and making favors. And it's unfortunate because it's went on for so many years. It's kind of, it's infected both sides of the aisle where a lot of our elected officials can't govern because there's too many favors they owe. And that's sad. And in this last several years, we've elected Twitter stars, and who makes the biggest noise? Who's gonna go in there and fight Trump? I'm gonna get Trump, as Letitia Peekaboo James said. instead of going in there and fighting for their constituents and fighting for good roads in their community, fighting for keeping their post office open, fighting to get more repairs on their dam in their community, and really advocating and fighting tooth and nail for their voters, for their constituents. And all we're seeing is Twitter stars out there making the biggest noise and allowing President Trump to rent space in their brains and minds to where they literally almost explode. And you see what's happening with Hakeem Jeffries. He's literally about to have a nervous breakdown because
he needs some help. He needs some therapeutic intervention.
Well, the best thing to do is just, as Dave Chappelle said, I can't say it on your show, you might want to shut the up and be quiet, So
not a very widespread Democrat trait, though.
Listen, one of my great mentors taught me many years ago, Herman Cain. He says, don't pay attention to the noise, pay attention to the numbers. And every successful businessman, and of course, I've been in business for 30 years in Atlanta, even some of my other mentors in business, very successful business people, don't get caught up in the noise. It's distracting, and it makes you make bad business decisions. And it's unfortunate because a lot of elected officials get caught up in the noise and not really paying attention to what the numbers. And the president is looking at this great nation as a balance sheet, a profit and loss statement. That's what good business people do. We're not in it for popularity contests. We're looking at balance sheets at what makes sense, what's profitable and what's a loss. And that's exactly what he's going to go back with OMB once again and look under the hood. And he, a lot of things might have got spared that first go around. Now it's like, okay, well, now I guess we need to go ahead and take care of this because, one thing about adjustments, especially in government and government jobs, I use that term. I like always gradual progressions, and that's the way I always like to do things. I don't really just want to cut things and throw people out in the street. It's kind of like good companies that have a tough time, warn their great employees, like, look, we're not as profitable we were. We're going to have to all take a 10% decrease. We'll try that, and we'll look at this in the next quarter. If that doesn't work, let me help you have a way to find another job while you're here, and let me help you. That's how historically, a lot of us business people look at things. Nobody wants to put anyone in the street. That's bad karma there, man. It really, truly is. So it's unfortunate, and hopefully we'll come to a resolution on this, and hopefully the Democrats will come, to the senses, because it is in their corner. I'm sorry, it's their baby. The baby's out there all alone with no clothes. It's cold. Put the blanket on the baby. Bring the baby in the house, and let's do some business.
Yeah, the baby's parents aren't negotiating in good faith, though, as I think you just
there you
kind
go.
of alluded to a minute ago, right? You can only reason with someone who has at least some reasonableness about them, and we're just not there at the moment. And I think that's part of what the American people need to understand. I think if Donald Trump had, not that he was my favorite person in American history, but Tip O'Neill on the other side of the table here, I think we could get something done. This is not Tip O'Neill. This is not Harry Truman. This is not Jack Kennedy, folks. That Democrat Party is unfortunately dead and buried. But I do think the American people are starting to get it. Bruce, I have a website, SaveJersey.com, that covers New Jersey politics. We just actually did a gubernatorial poll, and one of the interesting findings was that this is New Jersey I'm talking about, a quote-unquote blue state. 47% said they wanted a governor who would work with the president. 43% said against. And that's in a state that hasn't voted for a Republican for president since 1988. You tell me if I'm wrong, because you're a good businessman just like the president is, but part of being a good businessman is understanding the street, understanding your market, the people you're trying to reach. Do you think the American people are looking at this car wreck down in D.C. and starting to realize how insane the Democrats are?
Yeah, well, it all stems from this. This is what we battled back in 16 and 17, was peeling back the layers of the fake news. When I say that, a lot of times they use the term fake news as, it's a joke, but it's very real. And one thing about this particular term, in President Trump's second term here, is we have made some tremendous strides in getting the truth out to the American people. remember when Jack Dorsey controlled all the algorithms on Twitter, you saw what we were dealing with. You saw how Zuckerbucks dealt with Instagram and Facebook and all the huge social media, as well as cable apparatuses through ABC, NBC, CNN, et cetera. So peeling back through the layers and exposing the lies, the deceit, and the cheat in that order thrown against President Trump, and a lot of great Republican conservatives that were trying to do the right thing. That's essentially how we've been able to make better strides, honestly. And that, because you got to remember, I'm from the old Walter Cronkite days. I know I'm dating myself, and, Walter Cronkite would say, that's the way it is, Tuesday, November 5th. And it was in stone, like
You're right.
that's what Walter said. So for somehow we've kind of lost our way on, quote, true journalism, and we're trying to pick through the weeds and get back to just the truth, the uncomfortable truth. And I think a lot of American people are finally starting to see that through the filters and getting past the encapsulation of the historical barrier of fake news. And that's one of
and it's getting harder to
challenges.
fact check these guys, right? That's one of the downsides of not having any real journalists. We certainly have them in the right new media sphere, but I cannot get over, and I should know better by now, Democrats insisting that they're not trying to fund illegal alien health care. It's in their proposal. It would require Medicaid, and you correct me if I'm wrong here, to pay more for emergency care provided to illegals.
Yeah.
And it's
Well, you
not
remember
going
the
to
Democrat,
provide more for the disabled, the elderly, children.
Yeah. Well, you remember the Democrat, the race when they had all the Democrat candidates in there. Raise your hand if you're for, Medicare or, health care for illegals. And all but one hand raised. So, I mean, the receipts are there. Actually, and then they voted in the House. Actually, I tweeted that, and it got like 6 million views about, blocking illegal health care to, blocking health care illegal aliens. And they voted nay. So, I mean, come on, the receipts are there. They need to stop the foolishness. But listen, real quick, I'm one of 30 million businesses in the country, and just like a lot of your listeners and all you business people, y'all know where I'm going with this. For a small business, and of course the government defines a small business 500 and under, 500 employees and under, which I think it should be smaller, but whatever. Every time you look up and you see Congress making deals as the money bags, where that goes overseas, where it goes illegal immigration, et cetera, that's on the backs of our payroll taxes. That's on the backs of the small business. And most small businesses, Matt, we're on the hook for 46 to 51% of comes out of our gross revenues. So imagine what that's like trying to make rent, payroll tax, inventory tax, sales tax, avalorum tax, alarm fee tax. If you have an alarm in your business, you got to pay a tax on that. The list goes on. Yeah, so it strains and it just almost cripples you to where you can barely survive. And that's why I say this to all your listeners. I challenge you. If you're a very astute person, of a good person, of a steward, I call it the good stewardship of the money, which is the taxpayers' money. Please get on the ballot. City council, commission, state house. Take your great talents, and I lean towards more strong business people because they know what it's like to take a credit card to make payroll when they don't have enough revenue. And y'all know where I'm going with that, people listening to me. Those are the folks we want to aspire to run. Go run, spend a couple of terms there, do a great job, and get out. And before you get out, encourage the next guy and your next door neighbor, whoever, say, hey, man, you would be good to run for this seat. Don't stay there and get too long because you'll get stale. If you stay long enough, you're going to get in trouble. So that's what this whole America First movement is about. And that's unfortunately they've elected Twitter stars, noisemakers, and not people that really truly understand the guts of what it takes to run a balance sheet. And that's essentially what we're missing in both sides of the aisle.
But we are blessed to have that in the White House at the moment, and we're blessed to have it right now on 1210 WPHT, everyone. The great Bruce Levell, longtime advisor to the greatest president of my lifetime, which is really saying something because I was born in Ronald Reagan's first term. We really appreciate you joining us,
Yeah.
Bruce, here on 1210 WPHT once again. Never be a stranger, please.
Yeah, thanks for having me. God bless.